Hi, I'm Ron.
And I'm Don.
And this is the Ron and Don Show. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk today about a scenario that is a bit unpleasant, and that is one of your restaurants catches on fire. You get the call, you jump in your car, you head off to the restaurant, and you see the fire department just starting to pull away. Now what do? The scenario is, first and foremost, you can expect that in today's age of leaned out facility departments and restaurant support teams, you may be asked by your boss or perhaps the operations team to take the lead in getting this restaurant back online. Now, a lot of challenges come with that, and you need the support of a lot of other folks to make that happen.
Let's assume that you get there and you determine that, yes, this is not too bad and we can make repairs and get this restaurant operational in a reasonable time. This is not pull the bulldozer in and scrape the building off and start over. If that's the case, it's out of our league. But if it has been thrown to you to take this job on, you need to set up parameters and look at what has to be done. This is the first of what we will have over time, several episodes where we will talk in detail on a lot of the things we're going to skim over in this particular overview. But we're going to give you an outline of what has to happen. If you have been challenged to take on this and get this restaurant open in a few days, a few weeks, maybe a month, then you own it. You own that facility. You own it completely. Operations have a number of things that they have to do to follow the company guidelines, but you need to make contact with all of the interested parties in the office. If it's landlord lease, if it has to do with trash removal, if it has to do with getting a truck in there to pick up inventory, to take it off site, you may have to talk to the legal department on the liquor on what to do with that, if it can be taken off site or locked in place. All the things you need to get in contact with your support staff in the whole office and get things coming. And then you direct actions. The management team are going to have to do an awful lot of work on their computers, if they still exist, to salvage information on sales and all that kind of information. They may have to bring files out of the restaurant for the employee files to make sure that they're secure, and all that kind of stuff they have to do, but you need to manage them. You have a lot of employees of the restaurant that are no longer working that you may be able to hire to come in and do some cleaning for you, recognizing some of the cleaning should not be done by them because they can set the odors in items if they don't clean them with precise chemicals. But they're not earning a paycheck, and here's a way that they can earn some money while the restaurant is shut down. You own the restaurant, you direct the actions of everything involving that building, and you're involved in all communications concerning that building.
Well, and I, for better or worse, remind the facility manager that you probably still have to keep your daily duties of keeping all your other restaurants operational.
Yes, you do.
At the same time. So own it, but don't expect perhaps some sympathy from others.
No, you won't.
Also in the process, first and foremost, make safe. Make safe, be safe. When you arrive at the restaurant, you're not going to be able to access the building until you get a clearance from either the building inspector or the fire inspector. So anticipate that before you get there and go charging in. And don't go charging into an environment that may be unsafe. There may be structural issues and things like that depending on the extent of the fire. So be safe. There's no reason to go charging the hill like that. So watch out for structural failures, and again, some of them may be latent. They may not be as obvious as they should be. Also, you want to secure the area against unauthorized access by others. You don't need a bunch of people going in there. You need to secure the perimeter, if that means temporary fencing or whatever it takes to ensure the building is secure.
And in that whole regard, you have a safe in the restaurant. And if that safe is not secure, you may have to set up a security guard to protect that site and that safe until such time as you're allowed to go in there and empty the contents and get it off to the armored car people. Then you need to partner with professionals. And like I said, we're going to get into this a lot more details of all the professionals you're going to have to get into in future ones. But you have to set up contracts to do a lot of the work with experts in fire restoration and or remediation. Sometimes that's going to just be a general contractor, but other times you'll have some specialists depending on what you're doing. If you have insurance involved, you want that insurance adjuster in there the day of the fire. They like to sit around and say, well, you're not going to get this open for 3 months. I've opened restaurants in 4 days that they said wouldn't be open in 3 months because we went after it and got it done. And we had the fire marshal's approval and we got our building permits and we did it. They don't believe you when you say, we're going to go for it and we're going to get this done. You have to really push on the insurance company to get them in. Once the fire marshal has released it, as he said, and the insurance inspector has been there, or adjuster's been there, then it's time to get your bids started, and if you can get as many bids as you have time to get. But again, time is of the essence. You have staff that you will lose if you can't pay them, or if they are not being paid by the insurance company. So you need to be bringing all the things together so this restaurant can be put back into full operations and without too much disruption. Your general contractor will generally be somebody that's highly trusted and is familiar with all the difficulties of a restaurant as well as restoring a restaurant when it's had a disaster.
The facility manager should also expect the unexpected, and a great example of that is we had a fire recently in a restaurant and responded to it and got everything back in place. We're ready for the final inspections, called for the finals, and on the day that the finals were happening and the restaurant crew were back in there doing prep work, the floor drains all backed up. And ultimately they backed up because the grease interceptor had been sitting idle for a couple of months, and in that scenario, the grease coagulated, and when it started receiving water and stuff coming back in from the kitchen, the whole system backed up. So be mindful of the fact that some of the systems that have been out of service for an extended period of time may not be ready to be brought back online without some service and some attention to details. Another example of that is in the exit signs and the detex alarms and things like that. All those batteries have probably been sitting there chirping for the time that the restaurant's been shut down, and all that stuff is going to need to be looked at and tested and gone through, hopefully before the fire inspector shows up for that final approval to open the restaurant.
When the work commences, the question is going to be, when are we going to get open? When are you going to get I'm losing staff to the restaurant down the street. Set reasonable expectations with qualifiers. We don't know about this part. This could extend it, but here's the progression of work that we see that's going to take place on these days. And if we don't run into another problem, here's what we could have. You are not to publish that date. You as operations, this is just to give you an idea because we don't know right now. Set reasonable expectations and make sure that they don't let it get out too far that, oh, you're going to reopen on Tuesday. Well, if you don't get open until the following Tuesday, it's going to be a problem. Also, understand that depending on the time of year and where your restaurant is, weather conditions will change how quickly you can recover. If you're having to replace roof structures or roof membranes, paint the outside of the building, or whatever, you may have some difficulties. If the asphalt got torn up as a result of the fire truck's weight and you got to do some patching of asphalt, the asphalt plant may be closed for the winter. Have some reasonable expectations there.
I think too, as far as reasonable expectations are concerned, there could be material lead times that could be influenced by outside factors unrelated to your particular project. A great example of that we had a challenge with in the past was a particular restaurant brand was so busy building new restaurants and had their booth manufacturers so busy and so backlogged with booths, they couldn't get our production booths back to us that we needed to turn this restaurant back online, and that too caused a delay. So be mindful of the fact that some of the spec items that are unique to your brand may not be readily available, and those too could delay your opening.
My argument on that is always, I have an open, ongoing business. You have a potential business. This one is paying for the building of that one. give me your stuff so I can get open. And I've used that argument frequently, and to some effect. Sometimes a little bent egos on that project manager for the new one, but if they get delayed 3 or 4 days, that keeps you from being delayed a month, it's worth it for the company as a whole. They can do training without having the booths in. They just have to have them for opening day. When it's all done, and you do a thorough punch list, expect the unexpected. Things that you didn't think of, as we talked about before, will go wrong. Stay close with operations. Do all that you can to support them, even though you have all your other restaurants you're trying to catch up on. Then come back and close out the punch list. Show that you're still involved, even though that you're moving on to other projects. And you have probably gotten close with a lot of the staff members and stuff like that in that restaurant. And that's a joyous day when you close out the punch list and say, it's all done. Thank you for staying with us. Appreciate you being employees with us. I appreciate you supporting me as well.
So if you're a facility manager and you're tasked with the double duty of getting a restaurant back online, keep the faith. You will get to the end of the road. I'm Ron.
And I'm Don.
It's the Ron and Don Show. Thanks for joining us today. Please subscribe.